Hello, welcome, Marlene here. Today I'm trying something new. I've been seeing all over Pinterest and Instagram these meringues. I've never made them before, and so I thought I'd give it a go. Today's video is not sponsored, but it is inspired by this book by the Meringue Girls, the Meringue Girls cookbook. I will not be sharing their recipe, kind of counterproductive to their book sales. I'll be making 3 different meringues in the video today. The blue one's the standard meringue, but I did use my Russian ball tip. I wanted to test that out with the meringues. And the center ones are vegan, no egg whites. And then the ones on the right, I kind of did some funky stuff, added different things to see how that would work out. So on to the experiment. Now I'm coloring my meringue. This is natural food color, powder form, and I'm just stirring that in, and I'm going to kind of coat the outside of my piping bag with this so that I can get some color. I'm not coloring everything. Here is the piping bag. I've just added that colored meringue, kind of smeared it all over the outside, and now I'm coming in and adding my regular white to the center. So when this passes along the color, it will color the rest. There. Let's bring the sides up. See how this looks? You see? We have the blue all along the sides. We'll see if it actually does anything, but I'm using this Russian ball tip for my meringues. We'll see what results we get. I've got 2 bags here. I've got one with the piping tip and one with the meringue, and I'm just cutting the end. Make sure you cut high, because if you cut, let's say, just the end, well, it'll block the icing getting out. So make sure you cut like pretty high up, and then you can just drop your colored icing in there and see, make sure you can't see the plastic sticking out. Next thing you're going to need, make sure you have a clean cloth, wet, to wipe down the tip should it get mucked up. Now what we're doing is, you see there's the meringue, and I'm just letting it squeeze out, and I'm going to just keep squeezing as I pull up. I've got a hole in that one. Let's see the next one. My tests, I wasn't getting a hole. There, it's just the first one. Rocking motion. Stop squeezing, hold your parchment paper down a little bit, and then pull up. And as you make them, the color will intensify as it comes down from the bag. And you see the meringue reacts differently than the buttercream. It seals up that hole in the center that was problematic with buttercream. And as we move on, you see I'm losing definition, so it's time to wipe down the tip. So here I'm just, we're just going to squeeze out the meringue and rocking and squeeze and then pull up. Again, rocking, squeeze, pull up. You see it seals up the hole with the meringue. It does tend to create a pull. Now here I'm almost done. I'm going to try to get one more out of this. Hold down your parchment paper and pull up. Maybe I'll get one more. There. And there are the meringues. We get something slightly different than the usual kind of piping tip. Here is an attempt with a different Russian ball tip. This one has very narrow slits, and the meringue was just not coming out nicely. The tip was clean, there was no blockage, but for whatever reason, the meringue was not coming out evenly and looked pretty sloppy and not very pretty at the end there. You can see it's very lopsided and not very professional looking. So I suggest using the piping tip with the widest openings for the best results in this particular case. I'm sure I'm not the only one that has noticed there's an increase in vegans. I find that this particular diet the trickiest when it comes to desserts. It's very hard to replace butter and eggs and these types of things. And today we're making vegan meringues, so we need to replace the egg whites. After some research, I had my mind blown when I found what they actually use to replace egg whites. And so let's go through the process. Eggless meringues. Here I have a can of chickpeas, and I'm just straining them. And we're going to be using this liquid to make meringue. I treated the liquid from the can of chickpeas exactly like I would egg whites. I added the same quantity as I would egg whites. I added the same amount of cream of tartar and the same amount of sugar and vanilla. Whipped it for roughly the same amount of time, and it came out incredibly similar to actual meringue. Shocking, there is no magic trick. This is it happening right here in front of you. Here I have the food color I'm going to be using. It's Miroten, and it's France. It's a product of France, and it's powder. And I'm just going to gently fold that into my meringue. I'm just going to spoon a bit of this in there. And let's stir that into our chickpea concoction. It's got an earthy smell. Nice color. Nice natural looking pink. I like my food to look like food. We're going to drop this into the container here. I'm just going to pull this out so that we can kind of like coat both sides. And now let's reopen the bag so that we can add the white to this. Trying to get a bit of a marbled effect. Alright, now I've got my hand there. I'm looking like such an amateur. Alright, filling my bag with my chickpea concoction here. Because meringue is so light, you can actually fill the whole bag. It's super light, it won't rip your bag. It shouldn't anyway. There. Alright, here is the chickpea concoction, and we're going to create some little swirls here and see how this is going to bake compared to real meringue. I'm doing a swirl to see like how sturdy it is, how well it holds its shape. I really like this natural pink color on the outside. Looks very organic and natural. Since this is vegan, I didn't use the raw sugar because I found that it was a bit tricky with the meringue, so I'm trying to put our chances. This is crazy to me. It's crazy, just nuts. This is chickpea juice. All right, let's pop these in the oven. Here are the vegan, completely egg-free meringues. And you can see the color held up pretty good for a natural color. I really like this pink. You can see that they did kind of droop a little bit. The points didn't stay as nice. You know, it was a bit of a swirl, but they're still very pretty. And here, these were a bit smaller. Let's break one open so you can see inside. You see it's completely full. It's got, I thought it was going to be maybe hollow. This is so crazy. Really, a crazy thing. Let's break this. So there, inside a little bit of hollow there. The most peculiar thing, really, I can't even believe that this actually works. So these are vegan. Taste-wise, I don't know. I think I'd have to taste them without knowing, you know? Now that I've made my plain meringues, my vegan meringues, I decided to try, you know, and just experiment a little bit with this. And so for half the sugar, the granulated white sugar, I replaced that with brown sugar. I thought that would make it a little bit more interesting for the flavor. And then I spooned out a part of the meringue once it was whipped and stirred in some cocoa powder to create that swirl. And now on to the last experiment. I found that the best way to get your egg whites to a nice peak is with an electric mixer. I've not attempted by hand. I can't imagine that you could do it even, you know, you'd need to be mixing forever. And the other thing that can compromise the egg whites whipping properly is some butter or oil residue on your equipment, as well as the slightest trace of egg yolk in your egg whites. I poured my sugar in as it was mixing, and now I'm adding some amaretti marshmallow flavoring to this. Just putting it at the bottom of the mixer. All right. Look at how nice this is holding. I wanted my little swirl on top of the kiss to be a different color, and I wanted it to be natural, and so I'm using cocoa, and I've just got a little bit of meringue and some cocoa powder, and then I'll be spooning that into a tipless piping bag. The tipless piping bags usually can't take, you know, super intense pressure. Wouldn't work with buttercream, but for meringue, it's really light and fluffy, and it worked great. I found that it was even better than the usual Wilton thicker plastic. It was like just softer. I could squeeze all the meringue out easily. And then this nice soft plastic, it's very easy to tie a knot in the top just to make sure that it doesn't ooze out the top. Here is my cookie sheet. Here I have my chocolate meringue, and this one here is brown sugar with marshmallow flavoring, and we're just going to do some kisses on here. And now I'm just squeezing, then it touches the cookie sheet and pull up. So I'm not quite touching. I'm waiting for it to kind of connect as I squeeze. I'm above squeezing, it connects, pull up. To create like a mound at the bottom. And we want them bite-sized. These are a little messy when you take a bite out of them. So you just want to be able to pop it in your mouth and not have a bunch of crumbs falling everywhere. These don't really expand as they cook, so you can crowd them a bit. And now I've got my chocolate meringue here. The plan, I've never done this before. So what I'm doing is I'm squeezing out my chocolate here, and I'm going to go around the kiss like so. This is to create a bit of a good decoration. There. We're going to do this on all of them. So we're creating a swirl on our little kiss. Now that I've got all my little meringues ready, I'm going to sprinkle them with some hazelnuts. Just a little sprinkling to add some flavor to them and some crunch. Here are the meringues, baked and cooled, and you can see here we have this cute little swirl going and then the little hazelnuts on them. I like them better than the usual. You have the little taste of chocolate, and then that brown sugar gives them kind of more flavor. Here they are once again, and my final thoughts. If you've never had a meringue, it's nothing like the meringue that you'd have on lemon meringue pie. It's much kind of more cooked. It's not as, I want to say, wet. And the vegan ones, I did not like them as much as the egg ones. Finally, after I ate them over a few days, they were more chalky, I want to say, but a fantastic alternative for your vegan friends. I baked all 3 versions at the same temperature, 200 degrees, but the time, however, was very different. And I think that you should just pull one out and taste it to make sure. That's your best way. They say once they release from the parchment paper that they're ready, but often when I was testing them, they weren't ready when I tasted them. So you're better to just sacrifice a couple of them and actually break them open and look inside and taste them to know if they're done. I'm no meringue expert, but I do think that the brown sugar did something to the meringues with regards to the final texture after a few days. I don't know if it's the desired texture. Like I say, this is my first time, so I have no idea, but I did prefer the taste. I thought it was more kind of interesting than just this white granulated sugar with vanilla. I hope you enjoyed today's video. As always, the point is only to inspire you to perhaps try something new and different. And also with the Russian ball tips, you can see how they'll react with this different texture. This is very different than buttercream. So if you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future uploads, and I'll see you next time.